Okay, in this video we're going to talk about what are called adjacent angles. And what we see at the bottom of our picture is we actually see that we have two angles. We have angle A and we have angle B. And angle B and angle A are what we call adjacent angles. Let me give you the definition of what adjacent angles mean. Adjacent angles are angles that share, and I want you to go ahead and write this definition in your notebook. They're angles that share a common vertex and one common side. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and get that definition down, and then you can start it again. Okay, I hope you've got down that adjacent angles share a common vertex and a common side. And let me show you what that means here. When we say that they share a common vertex and side, if you look, this spot I'm putting in blue right here, this is the vertex. But it's actually the vertex of angle B. You see that angle B has two rays that come from that vertex, and it's the vertex of common A. That's rule number one for adjacent angles. But what they also have to do is share one side. You can think of them as next door neighbors, or like rooms that share a wall. And so the ray that is the common side is this one right here in the middle that I'm tracing in blue now. This ray is a side of both angles. That makes them adjacent. And so what I want us to do now is actually we're going to look at some angles and we're going to decide whether they're adjacent or not. We see here that A and B clearly are. They share a vertex and they share a side. And so let's take a look at some other ones. If I drew, this time let's draw three angles. And let's have the angles labeled C, D, and E. Now one thing we see is they all share a common vertex, but they're not all adjacent angles. There's actually two pairs of adjacent angles. Why don't you see if you can identify the angles that are adjacent? Okay, let's look at which ones you would say. If you looked at angle C and angle D, what you would notice about C and D is that they do both share a vertex and they also do share a common side. This side right here between them is a common side. So angles C and D are adjacent. How about angles C and E? Are angles C and E adjacent? And the answer is no. Even though they share a common vertex, there is no common side. Finally, though, let's take a look. There is one more. If we take a look at angles D and E, angles D and E share a common vertex, and this side right here that I'm doing red in between is a common side. So we could actually say that angle D and angle E are adjacent as well. And that is how we identify adjacent angles, and they're very important.